Well, hey, everybody, this is Jackson Mummy at Celebration Bar Review, and I'm really pleased that you're here with us today. If you've been following along, you know that I've been talking to successful bar exam takers, and this particular week is a really fun week because I've been able to talk to some people who just found out about their Florida bar exam results. And in the last episode, we talked to Andy Biggert, who had a great story of passing after 4 unsuccessful tries. But I think you're going to love today's story because the young lady that we're talking to is got a fabulous story of what she had to overcome and how she did it and the tools that she used and some things that happened. So we've got with us today the newest member of the Passing Florida Bar Exam Club, Jennifer Duclair. Jenny, I'm so glad to have you with us. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Jackson. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'd like to start by just letting you kind of tell our audience a little bit about yourself and your background and kind of what brought you to the point of taking the bar exam.
Okay. Well, I decided to go to law school after a short stint of teaching, and I had a very young child at the time. So going through law school, I was also in the Army Reserve. So I graduated from law school with my child and my military duty, and it was time to take the bar. And finding time and a way to study was hard, but also the disconnection with the big box review made it even harder. I didn't really have the luxury of putting my life on hold to spend all day studying. So I tried twice and failed twice. Which was very disappointing and discouraging.
Yeah.
I gave myself a year before I would attempt to try it again. And in that interim, I ran across YouTube videos about how to pass the bar.
There you those. Yeah.
It's amazing. I've heard other people found you through YouTube, and that's how I found you as well. And I am very grateful for the day I ran across that YouTube video.
So let me just ask, how old was your child when you took the bar?
When I took the bar the first time, 2012, he was 4.
He was 4. So you had a 4-year-old, and having had a couple children of our own, as well as some grandchildren now that are, well, our oldest is just now almost 4. Oh my gosh. What a crazy time, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so trying to balance your time to study and then coming out of the military as well, and trying to get all of that put together. Sounds like it was pretty rough the first couple of times through.
Well, yeah, I was still in. I remember going off to training with my bar study books. I remember staying up and on buses traveling to and from, training sites. I'd be studying.
Mm-hmm. I think we just lost your picture here, so let's see if there we go. All right, now you're back. Okay, good. Okay, so you were training, you're doing your military training and studying for the bar at the same time. What was that like?
Yes, that was in some regards it was okay because I was surrounded by I was in a legal unit in the military, so they understood, and so that was good. I had support, but it still wasn't enough.
Yeah. And so you take the bar, you don't pass a couple of times, you sit out a year. All right, so what's your mindset when it's time to go back in and start studying again? You see my videos. What are you thinking to yourself at that point?
Well, the fact is I was scared. Mm-hmm. I was scared of trying and failing again, but I have this new approach. You encourage a full, spectrum approach to studying, taking care of the mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional, as well as the academic. Rang true with me. It seemed to hit him and say, well, this is something different from what I've done before. In addition, you recommended tools that, harnessed the brain's power. And that also encouraged me, knowing that
let's talk about one of those, because you used photo reading, right?
I did.
Yeah. Now, I have lots of people ask me about photo reading, and they usually like, does that really work? So why don't you talk a little bit about what the experience was like for you of getting into photo reading, starting with it, and then kind of, I remember some conversations we had during the time. How did that work for you?
Well, after you and I discovered that I was heavily weighted in the reading area as far as learning is concerned, and I was very grateful for that quiz. You recommended, I don't know if you remember, that I stop everything and learn to photo read.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the time that I was spending studying would almost be wasted, since I really relied so heavily on, the picture, the written word. So I started to learn photo reading. I was amazed by the science behind it. And it actually seemed pretty easy, almost too easy. But I went through all the CDs and learned it. And then I started to put it to practice. And, to me, it was easy enough. It took me a few minutes to read an entire outline that would have taken me 4 hours just to skim. And in fact, I didn't know how to skim, which is why I had to learn, photo reading. The hardest part for me was when I needed to learn to trust that I knew all that information and just answer the question. And as you said, the less time I took thinking about it, trying to pull it from, the prefrontal, and just trusted that gut instinct, the more I got them correct. So the fact of the matter is that I finished questions much sooner than anybody else in the room, because I was going off of my gut, which is what I had to learn to practice to do in my practice sessions at home.
Yeah. For those who don't know what photo reading is, let me just explain just briefly here. Photo reading is a program that we incorporate into our bar review course for students, and it allows you to read and use your whole mind, not just the front of your prefrontal cortex, as Jenny said, but it uses your subconscious and preconscious brain, and it puts all that information in there. And so you're able to read a 4 or 5 hour outline in, what would it take you, Jenny? Probably 15 minutes, 30 minutes to do that.
14 to 15 minutes.
Yeah. And then when you're ready to use that material, instead of having a photographic memory, you've really got just sort of this intuitive sense, right, of what the material is and what the information is. And so then on the bar exam, what happens is that you start answering questions based on instinct more than analysis. Is that a fair way of putting it?
Right. It's become a part of me, the information has, to the point where I don't have to think about it. I just have to let the right answer out.
Yeah. And so so instead of struggling to get everything done in 3 hours, you're actually going through it pretty quickly. And obviously your multi-state scores went up. I think we can say that safely. We can say that your multi-state went up. What did it do for you on the essays when you were photo reading?
Well, what I found is that once I started writing, I would just let the information pour out of me, as opposed to trying to figure out what to say next. I would just write. And it was very interesting. The first time that I did, I compared my written answer to the answer supplied in the materials, and I had gotten every single important point. And I was amazed by that, because I had not expected that at all. I didn't know that I knew it like that, but the results spoke for themselves.
Yeah, that made you feel pretty good, didn't it?
And confident, yeah.
Yeah. If somebody were thinking about whether or not they should use photo reading to study for the bar, what would you tell them?
You have nothing to lose. And as a matter of fact, photo reading is a skill that you carry with you for a lifetime, even beyond the bar. I use it every day now.
Yeah. It's a game changer, I think. And, I think particularly when you've taken the exam and not had success, I love what you say. You have nothing to lose. I mean, try it. But one of the great things was that you really embraced it. I mean, you really jumped in and you said, okay, I'm willing to try this and do it. Now, one of the other reasons that I wanted to chat with you in particular is that in many of these Hangouts, I'm talking to people that were in the personal mentoring course. That is, they sent me their written work and we conferenced about that. You chose the basic mentoring course, and I thought it would be important and useful for people to talk to and hear from someone who was in that course and where you weren't getting my feedback on the written work and you still passed the exam. So what was that process like for you?
Well, you know, sometimes we run into constraints budgetary and you have to do what you have to do. But you gave me tools and insight into how I learn, and you gave me this outline. If I followed it, that would pass. And so I was able to hold myself accountable. If I know I hadn't done a certain number of assignments per week, I knew that I was sabotaging myself. So I held myself accountable. And the photo reading, when I applied it through answering questions and writing essays, I followed the instructions you gave, which was to work through the outline and check on your answers in the essay yourself, because that was another step of learning. I just had to really listen to what you said and do it. And I knew that once I did, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's really important, that you were very disciplined and you were following the study guide and following the order of assignments, doing the work as it was there. And you and I talk still pretty frequently in study conferences, right? So even though I wasn't reviewing your work, did you feel like you were alone in this process?
I did. You were there, and if I emailed, I got an answer, a response. Your people are very responsive. That is on point. And also I got to communicate with you. And, you know, even if I felt like there was nothing I needed to really talk about, once we got on together, things did come up, and I right away and apply them right away, get good guidance. I could tell you what kind of answers I was coming up with, and you would give me feedback and I would know where to go from there. You're very accessible. And that, I mean, there's no other varsity course like that. So.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. Well, tell me now what it was like going to Tampa for the bar exam. Now you're going back in. It's try number 3. What are you feeling like? What's that like? To share that if you would.
At the time I didn't know it, but right after, when you sent out the email about something akin to PTSD,
Yeah.
that rang true.
Yeah.
I didn't know how much stress I was under while I was there. I didn't know that I was running on adrenaline for the last 6 months, even though actually I started studying almost a year before the July bar.
Right.
Because I needed to space it out that long because of the amount of responsibilities I had. But the last 6 months, I was running on adrenaline because I was coming home from work and studying for hours and going to sleep and waking up and doing it all over again. And when I was at the bar itself, I was still running on adrenaline. I didn't know it at the time, but I was very calm because, quite frankly, at that point in time, there's nothing else that you can do but trust what you've learned up until then. I understood the people that were still running last minute. It's scary to be at the moment of truth. But throughout the study course, I had to keep telling myself that the outline, the photo reading, even my answers on the practice exams have shown you, Jenny, that you've got it. And I just had to keep that air about me. The most difficult part was probably the fact that I would finish after about an hour and some minutes, and then I would be like, this can't be right. This can't be right. and you know, but I said, you know, you have to trust yourself. This is the results that you got on your practice exams that you went over with Jackson. So you just have to trust. This is what you should expect. This is what you got in practice.
Yeah. You know, I tell the story sometimes that when I took the exam and finished very early, the proctor came up to me. I said, you know, I want to leave. I'm done. And the proctor looked at me and said, oh, honey, don't quit. I was like, you know, okay. So, yeah, so that's a little weird. Photo reading does kind of change that picture. So you took the exam and now you're waiting for results. And then on Monday, the results come out. Share that moment, what that was like for you finding out about your results.
Okay, well, know that my self-esteem and everything took a great beating with the 2 go-arounds that I failed in. So when I went to check my results, first of all, they weren't out at 9 o'clock. And I was like, oh, these inefficient people in Tallahassee, what are they doing? But anyway, when it finally loaded, I looked for the page with my bar number. Now, mind you, this is 3 years after the first time I took the bar. So my number was not with everybody else's number. Everybody was in the 4,000s. Mine was still in the 3,000s. And so I looked at that page and I scrolled down. And honestly, first of all, I was disheartened to see a long list of fails. But then when I reached my number, it said pass. And I said, wait a minute, am I sure this is my number? And I said, well, Jenny, you're the only one up high in these numbers where everybody else, majority is in the 4,000s. That's clue number 1. And if you really don't trust it, go check your email. You have documents with your numbers on it. So when I was finally assured that it was my number and that I had in fact passed, I allowed myself to breathe, at which point I started bawling and I was in the middle of work.
How cool.
So the office celebrated with me because, you know, they'd been watching the hard work all this time, and it was a celebratory moment for us all. And I was just bawling, quite frankly. I was relieved. I'd finally reached the end of this long road. It was finally over, and I, in large part, had this course to thank, and thank you.
Thank you. That's yeah. The reason I do I share this a lot, but the reason I do what I do is just for moments like that. I mean, really, that's the most fun that a teacher can have. So, I'm so proud of you and what you've accomplished. It had to be an unbelievable moment for you to know that you had set this goal. You'd worked for a year at this. I mean, you were really diligent. You started early. You followed instructions. You did what we asked you to do. You took on this new style of learning, this new approach, and you killed it. I mean, and by the way, in case you don't know, the pass rate in Florida was 68% for all bar takers, but for repeat bar takers, the pass rate was something like 25%. I mean, so you just beat every odd, every bit of the odds, and that's huge. That's just huge. So after the party at the office, you went home, and what'd you tell your son?
You know what? My son still doesn't know.
Really?
Really.
Okay.
Once the exam was finished, I poured myself back into giving him the attention that he hadn't gotten all this time.
Yeah.
He's made as huge a sacrifice as anybody else in this picture, and maybe even the biggest sacrifice, because he had to give up his mommy for so long. So the spotlight is off of me now, and I've been doing everything I can to pour into him. And, I've been asked that question a few times, like, have you told your son? How does he feel? And I'm thinking, we're going to sit down and talk about, it's one of those things that I'm still even digesting on my own.
Yeah. I mean, in case people don't get this, I mean, it's just a couple of days since Jenny got her results. So this is, I mean, we're catching her right in the midst of all of this. I think one thing that might happen, Jenny, is that when he's older and he's faced with some discouragement and some setbacks, you're going to be able to share this story with him, and it's going to mean an enormous amount to him. I mean, more than you can possibly imagine, that he will be able to say, you know what, my mom had to really overcome some pretty amazing things. I mean, failing the exam, raising a child, coming out of the military, working, studying, putting it all together, and not giving up. And, frankly, a lot of people would have given up. And I think the fact that you not only didn't give up, but that you persevered and you succeeded will be a role model for him. I know it's a role model for a lot of bar takers. I know there are a lot of people who are going to be listening and watching who are going to go, wow, if that can happen there, maybe it can happen for me. I mean, if you could talk to some of those repeat bar takers who are feeling pretty discouraged today, what would you want to say to them?
I lost you for a minute, but I think you asked me if I could talk to some of the repeat bar takers, what would I say to them?
Yeah, exactly.
Possible, more than possible, that with this bar review, this time could be your last time having to take the bar. So forget all around you and zero in on what's in front of you, your outline, your resources, and Jackson, the person that you can talk to when you need direction or something moving forward in your studies. Focus on that and just do what you're supposed to do every day. Today, focus on today, get tomorrow done. You will be successful.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Thanks. So now what are your future plans besides pouring into your son, which I think is awesome? What are you planning to do with this bar membership? You got anything on the horizon for yourself?
Well, it's still a little bit of taken so long that my application went, some people might have experience with.
Yeah.
But once it's done and I'm licensed, I'm going to pick up and continue going with the plans that I've always had. And you know, I really thought that I'd have to reroute my life with the bar failures, but it was just a wrinkle because I was able to get back on the road that I'd been to. So, you know, you'll see me with my, you know, real estate law and real estate investments and all the other fun stuff that I, you know, always dreamed about doing since, you know, graduating high school. And I'm really grateful for tools and people that have come along that I could keep going along my road to my plan.
You know, I have no doubt, Jenny, that you are going to be enormously successful. Your perseverance, your dedication, your really your intelligence and effort, all of those combined are going to make you a very, very special member of the bar. And it's really a thrill to be able to be part of that journey with you. And I know that everyone in the audience probably there's some tears in the audience, I suspect, people hearing this story. It's pretty amazing and really exciting. And I think we all share in that joy for you and your family and the opportunities that this is going to provide for you and your family over the years. So thanks for letting us be part of that ride. Thank you personally for letting me be part of the ride and for trusting me and trusting what we could do together. And I hope that for those of you who've been kind of watching and or listening today, that you get the idea that you can accomplish these things, you know, step at a time. You know, Jenny didn't buy the most expensive course we offer. But she took advantage of every resource. She did what we asked her to do, and the result is, as you see, a very successful, you know, grade and passing. And man, it feels like a weight off your shoulders. Probably does.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'm so appreciate you being here today and sharing your story with us, being you know, open and transparent about that. I know it will inspire a lot of people, and we really wish you all the very best in your future endeavors, and look forward to seeing you do great things in the Florida bar. So thanks for being with us today, and to our audience, we're just delighted that you could be with us, and we'll be back again in another few days with some more exciting stories of successful bar exam takers. So thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.